Yes, Larry.
And I accept my share of the responsibility in the result of the elections.
The new Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, says he's heard the message too.
If this is not a mandate to move in a particular direction, I would like somebody to explain to me what a mandate would look like.
From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. We begin tonight with the most straightforward reaction we've heard all day to the results of yesterday's midterm election. The Democratic chairman, David Wilhelm, said simply, "We got our butts kicked." And you can see how badly by this. In every race for the Senate, the House, and for governor yesterday, not one incumbent Republican lost. Republicans are now the majority party both in the Congress and in the governor's mansions across the nation. The only power base the Democrats still have is the one that was not at stake yesterday, the presidency itself. Well, Mr. Clinton today met the press, and he willingly took his medicine. To the White House first, ABC's Britt Hume.
The president said he had heard the voters' message, but took it less as a repudiation of him and his party than as a general disgust with the way things are in Washington.
There has been too much politics as usual in Washington, too much partisan conflict, too little reform of Congress and the political process.
Mr. Clinton insisted he has made a good start, but said people do not seem to recognize it, and that he was partly to blame.
I don't think they were disagreeing with a lot of the specifics. I do think they still just don't like it when they watch what we do up here, and they haven't felt the positive impact of what has been done. And since I'm the president, I have to take some responsibility for that.
There was no indication, however, that the president believes the voters found anything wrong with the basic direction he has taken.
Last night, they said they were not satisfied with the progress we had made. They said the Democrats had been in control of the White House and the Congress. They said they were going to make a change, and they did make a change. But they still want the same goal.
The president said his voice was failing him after a week on the road and a night on the telephone, but he showed a flash of humor in answering a question about the voters' message.
I think they were saying two things to me. Or maybe three. They were saying, let me say, maybe 300.
He repeatedly pledged to do all he could when he could to cooperate with the new Republican majority and was hopeful about the prospects.
I think there's a lot we can work together on that will be consistent with my convictions, consistent with what I have always believed, consistent with what I've always worked for.
But he also made it clear that he will not go along with some of the main elements of the Republican so-called contract, including the proposed tax cuts coupled with increases in defense.
But to those who would use this election to turn us back, let me say this. I will do all in my power to keep anyone from jeopardizing this economic recovery by taking us back to the policies that failed us before.
Those policies the president says failed are Reagan-era ideas about the economy and defense, which Republicans feel were both successful and popular. Disagreement on such matters goes very deep and will be hard to overcome, despite all the current talk about bipartisanship and cooperation. Britt Hume, ABC News, the White House.
The president did a pretty good job as political analyst today. What made the voters so angry? Well, the economy is doing better, he said, but Americans just don't seem to feel it in their pocketbooks. And that is just what our exit polls discovered. Here's ABC's Lynn Scherr.
The anti-Clinton tide was fueled largely by frustration with the economy and with the workings of the federal government. According to our ABC News exit poll, nearly 7 out of 10 voters are dissatisfied with Washington. Nearly 6 in 10 say the economy is in bad shape. Bill Clinton was elected to fix both problems. Yesterday, his party paid the price for failing to deliver. Look at the president's approval rating by region, and you'll understand how much of a liability he was. In the East, where 52% of the voters approve of his job performance, the House lost just 3 seats. But the damage increased as his popularity declined in the Midwest and the West. And his party did worst of all in the South, where a dismal 39% rating translated into 19 new seats for the Republicans. But economy wasn't the only factor. We're also seeing a significant ideological change. 2 years ago, those who called themselves conservatives made up only 30% of the electorate. This year, they were 37%, and they voted overwhelmingly Republican. And look at the independents, the swing voters in any election. 2 years ago, 46% of them voted Republican in House races. This year, there were 56%. In other words, They gave Mr. Clinton a chance back in 1992. Yesterday, they took it back. Peter?
Thanks very much, Lynn Sure. In a moment, what the Republican victory will mean in the House of Representatives and what it will mean for the leadership of the Senate.
This is World News.
100,000 absentee ballots still to be counted, and when they are, he says he will win. But counting Feinstein as a winner, here is what happened in the Senate. The Democrats, who now have a majority of 56 to 44, will lose 9 seats. Republicans will control the Senate 53 to 47. The Republicans collected 8 seats last night. The 9th came today when Richard Shelby of Alabama decided after the election he would go with the winners. ABC's John Cochran is our correspondent in the Senate tonight.
Bob Dole got only an hour's sleep last night, but the huge Republican win meant the next majority leader of the Senate felt a lot better than the president did when Dole called the White House.
And I wanted to let you know right up front that we want to work together where we can.
Dole promised to work for compromise, even if that helps Bill Clinton's re-election chances.
If we agree on it, I guess we can't worry about whether it helps the president or helps the Congress.
The Democrat Dole will replace retiring Majority Leader George Mitchell urged the White House to try to cooperate with the new powers that be.
I think it's better at this point to focus on the areas in which there can be agreement and to concentrate on those. I would not recommend a strategy of confrontation.
But the president can expect problems when Sam Nunn turns over chairmanship of the Armed Services Committee to Strom Thurmond, who will want more defense spending. And the White House must now rely on conservative Orrin Hatch instead of Joe Biden to clear judicial appointments. Instead of easygoing Claiborne Pell, Jesse Helms, a harsh critic of Clinton foreign policy, will now explore it in excruciating detail. And under Al D'Amato, the Banking Committee will pursue the Clintons on Whitewater with new enthusiasm.
It's certainly going to be easier for us to pursue Whitewater because we will not be blocked out of it.
Republicans have their own internal tensions between Phil Gramm and Bob Dole, 2 probable rivals for the presidency. Dole is also not quite as conservative as Gramm, who insisted the Republican victory was a very conservative mandate.
It is a mandate for dramatic change. The American people have given us the ball. I don't intend to see us fumble that ball.
Look for some problems, too, between Bob Dole and Newt Gingrich, who once called Dole the tax collector for the welfare state. But today, of all days, Republicans would rather not talk about that. John Cochran, ABC News, Capitol Hill.
Now, as we move to the House, take a look at this. All of those states in red, 30 of them are where Republicans took seats away from Democrats in the House of Representatives. Only in Rhode Island did the Democrats win more than they lost. In all, the House of Representatives will change from a Democratic majority of 256 to 178 to a Republican majority of 232 to 204. Now here's ABC's Cokie Roberts.
The bomb that fell on the Capitol yesterday not only meant defeat for the Speaker and several powerful committee chairmen, it also left thousands of people worrying about their jobs. And the Speaker of the next Congress made it clear they should be worrying.
There will be at least 1/3 fewer congressional committee staff.
Most of those committee staff members owe their jobs to Democrats. So do the officers of the House and all the people who work for them, the police officers, the workers in the folding room, even the congressional pages. Then there's the question of who takes over, who will be chairing the key committees in a Republican House. Before that's decided, there will be a fight over just which committees are left to chair.
We will reduce the number of committees the opening day.
One committee sure to survive, Appropriations. But the senior Republican there, Pennsylvania's Joseph McDade, is under indictment, so he's unlikely to become chairman. The leadership of the House will have a distinctly Southern accent. Georgia's Newt Gingrich as Speaker, Texas's Dick Armey as Majority Leader. Other possible Southern leaders, Tom DeLay of Texas, Bill McCollum of Florida, or Robert Livingston of Louisiana. It will be their job to try to act on that Republican contract signed by many of the candidates who won yesterday. That won't be easy, according to a congressional scholar.
It's easier